to Awaken the Dream. My friends, I have a new guest today that I just met who's very, very charming. Her name is Sherianna Boyle. Now, what do I start with? You're a psychologist, you're a yoga teacher, you're a writer.
Yes.
You're a therapist. And, correct?
I was a school psychologist.
A school psychologist.
Yes.
And you seem to have a specialty around working with children and anxiety.
Yes.
So, as I said before the show, where were you when I was 2, when I had a twin and those sisters that gave us the evil eye? I love your subject, and I think our friends are going to really enjoy hearing and getting some help. Now, one of the things you said on your email to me was what not to do.
Oh.
So, and I thought that who doesn't need help with what not to do if your child is anxious?
Right,
But may I just go back and say, how in the world did you find this field? It must have meant something to you, either from your experience or with working with your own children or other children.
Oh.
What hit you over the head that said, oh, I really like this subject?
Oh, the subject, okay. Well, it kind of came to me. The topic came to me. I had actually pitched a book about anxiety and to a publisher.
With children, about children?
It was actually for adults.
Oh, it is?
And they came back and said, we love your pitch, we love what you've written, however, we really would like one for children. So what do you think? And we think you'd be a great match.
Oh.
And I said, okay, great, I'll write one for children. So I kind of started from scratch there.
Yeah.
The topic I absolutely love. It couldn't be closer to what I feel comfortable teaching and writing about.
Good to know, it's you.
It fit like a glove. It continues to fit like a glove. From raising children, that certainly has having my 3 daughters and watching them move through the school system and listening to them and witnessing how anxiety comes in and out of the home. I also, while I was writing the book, I realized I probably, when I was younger, would have been diagnosed with an anxiety disorder, but like many of us, the tools weren't there and the knowledge.
Right.
And it was mainly because there were just so many events that happened in my life that were out of my control. And so I realize now that it was quite prevalent in my family.
Are you one of many?
No, I'm not. I came from a small family.
Okay. Didn't know if that had anything to do with it.
So there's a little bit of a personal, as well as being a mom, as well as my field, being a school psychologist.
Yeah. Were you a shy child at all?
I think so, but I think probably because I was anxious.
Because I had a stuttering problem, so
Exactly.
And I blushed.
Yes.
Oh, I hated that. Oh. Yeah.
Yes.
Those were uncomfortable years, as I recall, in those early years. It's like the competition and do I fit in, and my eyes aren't blue and my hair is not blonde.
Exactly, and the pressure and things, and for me it was a lot of shame and guilt. My family was really struggling, like I said, with a lot of anxiety and it was, but I can relate so much, and I know that's why I became a school psychologist, because I could relate to all of the kids, you know, that I could relate to coming from a home where there's violence in the home and things like that. So,
did you feel responsible at all for making it better? Or, I mean, because sometimes you can have anxiety for how can I fix this, or if somebody's not happy here, or... You
know, what I'm realizing, and since I've written the book, and what I've learned about looking back at my family is that we were all extremely empathic people. We had a lot of empathy, and we also were very generous. And I mean, we were the type of the family where if you came and you told your story, we'd be crying with you, you know?
And dragging you in and giving you a bed.
Exactly. We'd say, yeah, we would just feel it. But what happens to people who are highly empathic is you become energy absorbers. Anxiety is highly contagious.
Yeah.
So what I didn't realize then that I realize now is I was actually attempting, it wasn't that I was wanting to make it all better, I was actually trying to heal people through my own body. And so I was getting exhausted and I wasn't feeling, and people do that. They actually run it through their own system. and unconsciously, so much is happening through the subconscious mind, and then until they're exhausted and they peter out, or they just don't feel good anymore, and that's how it surfaces eventually.
Did you feel you had no protection? As your body was absorbing everybody's energy, you didn't quite know how to handle it because you just took it in, and there it was, living a life within you?
It was living a life within me. There was a tremendous amount of fear, and what happens is you start to actually comfort yourself with fear, and it's really a strange thing, but that can happen with anxiety as well. If you think of how many people comfort themselves with their own anxiety, it becomes like an addictive kind of behavior, unconscious. We're not aware that we're doing this, but we're actually, it's kind of like when you're so used to things being unsteady that to have them balanced is unfamiliar and uncomfortable. So that's what happened, and there was event after event after event, and it wasn't until we moved, and we moved to the country, and we moved because my parents knew we needed a fresh start. This was not going well, so we did. But what was nice is I had nature, and I had a little church down the road, so I would just walk to church. I would take myself to church, and I would pray, and it wasn't until years later when my family said, well, honey, it wasn't actually the church that you were baptized in or the religion you were raised in.
No. You just found a little place to go.
I just found a little sacred place to go, and I believe that was just the beginning for me when I moved to the country.
I'm intrigued with this fear thing, because my hunch is because I've experienced this, that you might practice something to protect yourself.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's an interesting dynamic, isn't it? Let's practice it, because if it comes, I'll be ready.
Exactly, exactly. You revisit it, and then it becomes your go-to emotion. It's kind of like when you feel angry, and then all of a sudden you feel angry again, and it might be just something really little, and people are like, well, what's she so angry about? It's not even a big deal. But it just, you revisit it, and it becomes your go-to place, because that's what you're familiar with, and it just creates this cycle over and over and over again.
So you learned by personal experience, for sure, about how you felt, how your body felt, how anxious you got, or exhausted. When you said I felt exhausted, that to me is your body was.
I went through quite a bit of. I went through quite a bit of depression at one point, which is likely when you run it for so long. And that's the thing with anxiety. In the beginning, the onset of symptoms is quite clear. So you have the symptoms of trembling or hyperventilation or nervousness, but it's really identified by its chronic worry, the chronic thinking. When it goes on for so long, you become a little numb. And so it's really important that people catch it early, and we have the tools to do that now. Good. And do you lose yourself a little bit? You do. So that's the depression. The depression is a disconnection from the soul. You lose your connection, mind, body, spirit, right? So it's a calling to the soul. So depression is not such a bad thing when you really.
No, that's true.
When you move through it, you reconnect with who you are.
Or you face it.
Exactly. It's just
recognize it.
You recognize it's just you've lost your connection there.
Listen, before you go on, because people are probably very interested in your subject, I want to make sure that your website is where they can find you, because they can reach you if they click on your website just to be in touch with you. Just want to make sure that they knew you were available.
SheriannaBoyle.com. Oh, absolutely.
SheriannaBoyle.com.
I do work privately. I have a stress therapy practice where I do a lot of work with energy. And then I also teach in groups, and I'm starting to venture out on some new ground, and then I'm starting to bring the energy into group work. I
love group work. I think it's the best.
Powerful.
It is.
It's so
the best
powerful.
I've ever experienced in my life, for feeling comforted and accepted. Somebody's out there that's been where you've been.
Valuing that each and every person has tremendous, everybody has something to contribute in that group work. And I don't care, even if it's something that we all need to look at it doesn't matter what it is. There is no, after writing Powered by Me, which was my first book, which really lays the groundwork.
Now what's the title again? Empowered by?
Powered by.
Oh, Powered by Me.
Powered by Me.
Okay.
Powered by Me. The first book is Powered by Me for educators, pre-K to 12. So it is a book written for professionals in the school community from the mindset of a school psychologist.
Perfect.
That's the first book. The second book is for parents and professionals as well.
Okay, and the title to that book?
Is The Everything Parent's Guide to Overcoming Childhood Anxiety. Now that one will come out in June.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So the children field really fits you like a glove.
Yes.
All right. I'm sure there are friends watching that say, like when you emailed me, you say, what not to react to if someone is having an anxiety. Maybe I'm not saying it right. Maybe you can help me with the ins and outs of the do's and don'ts.
The first thing is really watching our language. And I get this all the time when parents email me and they say, what my child is suffering from anxiety or they have anxiety. And so when this is discussed in both books, and this is also what I do in my private work, is there's something called the subconscious mind, which is, as you know, 90% of what we do and comes from that part of our invisible mind. Yeah. So I bring people's attention to learning how they lock things in. So when we
repress
say
things?
When they lock it in energetically.
Okay.
So I have says to the soul, okay, well, I guess this is you. You are your anxiety, rather than I am experiencing symptoms.
Okay.
So what was your question?
Well, I mean, the do's and the don'ts, or the how-tos.
The how-tos.
I mean, the warning signs, where a parent might be like, oh dear, I don't know what's going on here.
Okay. The do's and let's start with the do's and the don'ts.
Okay.
Watch how you use the word anxiety, and I think all of us can benefit from that. The parents, professionals, it's a term that is being thrown around left and right.
True.
It's a buzzword.
Yep.
And we have to know what we're saying.
Angst.
Yes. When we throw that word out, we have to know that anxiety is a compilation of symptoms. So they're psychological and physiological in nature, right? The psychological is self-doubt, fear of our inability to cope, often low self-esteem. The chronic worry, as I said, is a key component of the psychological characteristics. Then you get all the physiological ones, the sweating, the nervousness, the increased heart rate, the blood, so many different. So when we throw that word out, we're basically saying you have all of this, and that's heavy.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
So
it's hard for someone to receive.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. So what I would recommend in what not to say. Yeah. You're anxious.
Okay.
You have anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah. That could make someone pretty anxious.
It's heavy.
Yeah, it's heavy.
It's heavy.
Yeah.
So I would focus on the symptoms. Each symptom gets its own little. It's like children. They all want their own little attention. Yeah. Well, each symptom, just one at a time. Yeah. One step at a time. So gee, you sound a little worried. You sound like that got something on your mind. Yeah, yeah. Right? Or you sound nervous, or you look a little nervous. But one symptom at a time will just help them. You can feel it. It's lighter. Yeah. It's lighter, and already you feel, okay, I can,
we're opening a little door here.
Opening the door, and you're just providing a little bit of insight. But to tell someone they're anxious, or to say, oh, my mother, she's anxious, or, you know. Yeah,
I felt you coming in. What's wrong? Okay.
It's heavy. Yeah. It's heavy. Okay. So the main thing is not to call them anxious. Okay. Right. The judgment, whenever we judge, that interrupts healing. Yeah. Yeah. The greatest healer is non-judgment. Yeah. Yeah. So if we can just
Yeah. Well, that's what I meant about group work. When something comes up where you've been in a place and someone else has been in that place, there's something about not being alone.
Right.
That is just, it's like, oh, the lift.
Right.
Is quite glorious.
Right.
Now you are starting group work, or?
Okay. Well, I've started doing. I teach on a regular basis. I teach yoga. I actually teach out of a church.
Okay.
Yes. I also teach at Centerville Yoga and Wellness Center.
Oh, good to know.
Yes. And I'm also traveling around to different yoga studios and doing a workshop called Yoga for Anxiety.
Oh, wonderful.
So I'm popping around, and once a month you'll find me at a yoga studio. So there's the group work.
All right.
What I do with Yoga for Anxiety is I talk about my viewpoint of anxiety, my take on that. And then I also go into some energy clearings because, again, the subconscious is running. So we have to open ourselves up and start to clear away some belief systems and that are no longer serving us, because much of the anxiety is based on these belief systems that I don't deserve, I'm not good enough, I can't handle this, nobody supports me, I'm all alone, like you mentioned that before, that's a belief system. All of that has energy and it gets lodged in the body. So I go in and together with our help facilitate, bring them into their higher consciousness. Together, they always have a free will, whether they would choose to clear or not.
And they learn they have a free will with you.
And they learn, and I give them permission, and
they can change their mind.
They can change their mind. And then
that's powerful right there.
It's extremely powerful.
Wow.
It's extremely, I really just started creating this on my own and listening to my higher guidance saying this is where you need to go and this is what's really going to help people.
You're unfolding. Gee, what an interesting story. So you don't, I mean, you're just going to keep moving and keep being open.
Well, I'm trusting and I know I'm being guided and I don't even, I mean, who's meant to be with me is meant to be with me. I know that who shows up in the room, that it's far beyond me. I do the work. I study. I'm committed. I practice on my own, which is really important. And I trust my higher guidance that I am where I'm.
So this book that you've written for teachers, is that available for to the schools?
That is.
They know about you. Have you gone to do any guest speaking with them or sat down with your book with them or anything like that? Or
I haven't. I have some, and not as much. I'm going to Plymouth. The doors are just, I have to tell you, this is what I believe about Powered by Me. I think it was a little ahead of its time. I do. I think now it's actually people more ready for it. It's all about self-awareness and the true power behind all the tools that we have. So teachers and professionals have many, 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 many tools. We have so many tools we don't even know what to do with them.
We
have curriculums and professional development, and
it's like talking about who God is instead of going there.
You know, teachers have a lot. They're handed, okay, now you need to do this, now you need to do that.
Pass this,
and try this and say this and don't do that, right? So what the book is about.
Talk about anxiety. Have some. Here's your next course.
Right. What the book is about is it's not so much about the actual tool. What is it that powers the tool? And what powers the tool is your consciousness. It's your self-awareness. So it's what you choose to focus on.
So you talk about the subconscious and the power of the mind.
And the power of the mind. And I also apply it to behaviors. I bring it into the practical. I bring it into behaviors you see happening in schools all the time, all the behaviors I could remember, which still exist. I talk about also the culture of a school, the suppression that happens in schools, the suppression of your voice. Many of us are sitting around tables and in teams, and we're not speaking our truth.
I hear you.
And what that does to someone.
Showing up thinking I should appear this way.
Just not worrying about perhaps getting into
trouble. What somebody will think.
What somebody will think.
Yeah, I hear you.
I was there.
Yeah.
That's how come I know.
Yeah.
I was there. I remember biting my tongue. And,
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
not raising my hand, afraid.
Afraid because you didn't want to open up a can of worms,
Yeah.
but yet there was this something
or
inside
you. Could be wrong.
You could be wrong. You could be wrong, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's not to say that it's really just about being more comfortable, getting and invoking the consciousness, becoming more aware, knowing that that's what powers it, and we don't always have to say something.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes now we know, when particularly with the second book, that we can empower a situation just by what we choose to focus on in that meeting. It's not so much what we say.
Yeah.
But it's the energy that we're putting out.
Yeah. Now we hear so much about bullying lately. That's always been?
Yes.
I mean, it's now we're talking about it. And,
yes.
And kids are killing themselves, and there's horrible stuff going on. So it's definitely, as you say, think of what we're aware of now.
Yes.
So you must work with how children treat each other.
I talk about it in that's one of the reasons that the publishers hired me to do the book. They really wanted bullying to be, so it's in the second book.
Good.
There's quite a bit on bullying and technology.
All the time.
Yes.
It's hard to hear.
It is hard to hear.
Yeah.
I think it's important that as parents we address our own fears.
Yeah.
Because we're also reacting.
Yeah, and have our children be able to talk to us about anything they're feeling or going through. Make sure that trust is there, that they can say absolutely anything.
Absolutely.
Because burying it certainly doesn't help.
Right, and listening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have 3 girls. You've got wonderful examples there to...
They're teachers.
They're teachers, aren't they?
They are.
Wow.
I learned so much from them. I wouldn't be doing any of this without them, really.
Yeah. Are you still at the college doing anything?
I am. I teach psychology there.
At 4 Cs?
At 4 Cs. I teach, and that's wonderful. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
And
you do so many things, the yoga practice. I mean, I'm delighted for you. I mean, with a mom of 3, I mean, you're making me anxious. How do you do it? But you're doing it because it's opening up, and
well, I do it with love. I mean, I really do, and that's what keeps me going. I do what feels right.
Yeah.
I don't do something because I think I should do it. I do it because
you must be so grateful to see how all of this is opening up for you.
Right, and I do learn the balance. I mean, I was teaching more courses at the college. I recently released one when I took on the second book. I said, okay, there's something needs to go now that I'm taking this book on. What can I release? And so I learn how to balance it. And
we have 5 minutes to go, so I just want to make sure the book that's for parents is coming out in June.
In June, yes.
All right, so they can look for that.
Amazon, yes.
Amazon,
yes.
Okay, because you probably have a lot of folks interested in what you're talking about today and want to find you.
It will be in Barnes & Noble as well.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And it's the Everything Parenting series. So there's the Everything Parents Guide is a series. So if you're a parent looking for anything, what they do is they hire experts in the field on specific topics. Mine is about childhood anxiety. Now, I want to be clear, your child does not have to be anxious to benefit from this book.
Good to know.
Yes, because it's about resiliency. We are all exposed to anxiety, and like I said, it is contagious.
Yeah.
So you can be driving, and the guy behind you could be, can I say pissed off?
Of course you can. Or sitting on your tail. Or you do something wrong and then you look at the mirror and you see them doing a hand sign.
Right.
It's like, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so, we're all exposed to, right? So it truly is for everyone. And parents bring it home. We bring it home from work.
Yeah.
So not only do the children benefit from you reading this book, but the parents are going to learn techniques that they can utilize as well.
Yeah.
And they're great. I mean, it's really...
Bernie Siegel used to say that when he would come home from all of his trauma work and life and death, he'd have to go downstairs and pull himself together before he greeted his family because he just was not present. So that's a good tip if you bring stuff home.
Right.
Take your yoga class on your way home.
Right, and I'm teaching techniques that you can do right at your dinner table. I mean, let's all just take a moment here and just
lots of breathing,
release the day.
Yeah.
You know, develop some rituals. Go
what
back
a wonderful idea.
Rituals that bring you back, that cut the ties.
Yeah.
That anything that removed us, that keeps us from being present in the here and the now. How do you begin your day? How do you end your day?
Yeah.
And to be a model. I mean, my daughter, she's almost 14, my oldest, and so we get up early because the high school starts around 7.
Oh, wow.
So she and I are up at 5:30, and so she has her breakfast, but the next thing she sees is I'm in meditation. Oh. Every morning she walks by me in meditation.
Oh, how wonderful. How nice.
And so it's just...
What a role model.
I do it because I love it.
Of course.
I mean, I didn't start out doing it because I wanted her to walk by me and see me there. But it just kind of evolved. I thought, well, I'm up, right? This is new for me in high school. You have to get up early.
Yeah.
But I'm up and it's quiet.
Make the best of your time.
It's dark.
Yeah.
And I
love the early morning.
Yeah.
I
so I
love
said,
it.
you know what? I mean, I'm not going to start banging pots and pans around.
No. Let's have a sweet start to the day. And when you say when they all came home at night, that can be behind you. And you have an evening ahead of you where it can be fresh, a fresh page.
Exactly.
Yeah, techniques for all of that. Boy, we all need this book. I love what you're saying, and I think it's wonderful. But are there many psychologists that are on your page? Do you feel like you're working with a lot of folks who know what you're doing in your field? Or do you feel you've got something a little bit that's your little cloak?
Well, there's definitely people out there, and even individuals. I have Anna Zick she's a psychotherapist in Barnstable. She's been a wonderful mentor to me.
Yeah.
I'm really grateful for her. Oh. One of the other mentors that...
You've got 1 minute to wind up a sentence for me.
The other mentor was Cindy Horgan, who's on the Cape, and she's a parent educator. I did that I taught alongside her for 6 years.
Did you? So
she was a gift in my life as far as learning.
That's so nice you could mention those mentors.
Yeah, so
Yeah. And there's no accident they came into your life and gave you the old Gibbs head slap for you to open up and learn and grow. But thank you so much for coming on to my show, and it's so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
I'll wish you the best of luck and come back.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, my friends, for joining us on Awaken the Dream. We will talk to you again soon.